Hi, welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. I'm DV LeBron. Today, my very special guest is Mr. Wayne Shuffield, who is a candidate for Midlothian City Council, Place 6. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, DV. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, I tell every candidate that's been running this year, thank you so much for wanting to serve your community in this thing that's Ellis County politics that can be rough and tumble. I appreciate you wanting to serve your community. So, what made you want to run for office and maybe tell people about you?
Well, I'd be glad to do that. I'm a second generation pastor, been a minister for all of my career, but I've also been a businessman. It's been kind of a parallel line that I've been running during my life. I from Midlothian, or been in Midlothian for 24 years this summer. And as a minister, I've always been involved in the community, mainly through the pastorates. But the last 24 years when we moved here, I was working as a consultant and a denominational worker and got involved in traveling. And started thinking, what am I doing for my own community? So not long after we moved here, I started getting involved in the community. My wife and I and daughter, our only child, enjoyed moving to this place and having it for primarily moving here because of the education and schools. My wife is an educator. In fact, she just retired this past year after 22 years of serving in the MISD. Our daughter is currently working as a theater teacher at Heritage High School. So we've kind of planted our lives and our roots right here. And being a part of the community, I wanted to just get involved and be a part of different aspects of it. So early on, after we moved here, I became a member of the board of directors, founding board, in fact, of the Midlothian Education Foundation. And after one term of that, I ran for school board and served 3 terms with the school board. Following that, I laid out for about 6 months, and then I was asked by the city council if I would serve on the A board, the Midlothian Economic Development, and I did that for 7 years. And then I just been sitting on the couch, I guess. I don't know, in terms of my public service. For I was out for a year, and just felt like that I wanted to continue to apply my gifts or my experiences and my life to the service in the community. So that was part of the motivation of just going ahead and throwing my hat in the ring, so to speak, and got
Yeah,
involved in the community.
yeah, that's big. Wanting to serve and then going through that in businessman and pastor. That's big. Both of them are huge. How do those and other experiences? How do you think that will help you, or what do you think you would bring to the council if you were elected?
Well, I'm committed to helping the small businessman in Midlothian, and have a lot of friendships with a lot of the small businesses in town. Uh, and I feel like as a businessman myself, having my own company, I don't have an office. I work out of my home, but it's got me involved with the community in various ways. But I feel like I want to bring my experience and my background, and obviously my knowledge of various aspects of taxing entities and um, the permit processes and zoning processes and all of that, knowing full well that we're right on the cusp of a continued expansion, as we've seen over the last 24 years that I've lived here. The continued progress of growth. We've gone from about, I don't remember, about 8,000 or so population to well over, a little over 40,000, on our way fast to 50,000 population of Midlothian. And with that kind of growth, we want to keep kind of that small town atmosphere and hometown living, but at the same time manage and and do growth wisely, make decisions that will help the community to grow. And like anybody else, I'm very much for low taxes as appraisals rise. Don't want a whole lot
Yeah.
more coming out of my pocket.
Yeah, no, no, we're definitely going to talk about tax because it's something
Yeah.
affecting your community. What is the primary role of a city councilman in the lives of the people of Midlothian?
I think the primary role is going to be to manage that growth, providing for the infrastructure as we continue to grow, working with in a direct way developers and those that do come in and provide for the expansion of Midlothian. I think the city needs to be involved in that. On top of that, it needs to be looking at the safeguarding the interests as well as the welfare of our citizens, of safety, fire, all the services that are there. And then you add to that a third element that I see is providing for those amenities and a place where you can raise your family and where the children can make memories and parents can have the security of a hometown living and education of their own children, and providing for all of that in a sustainable way. I think that's very much on the table and at the desk of a city council.
How important is accountability? Because as the elected official, you're going to be the one, the eyes and ears for the people to the city, and so um, knowing what your thoughts on accountability is big.
Well, accountability obviously is certainly one of the high priorities of the citizens. We are a government of the people and for the people, by the people, and the accountability to the citizenship and the people of the community. Not only those who voted, who might vote for me, but if elected, it's governing everyone. I mean, there are certain times where that accountability sometimes goes toward special interests because they're the ones that supported a campaign or friends. And I've always had the belief that when elected, governance is about serving all the people. So you have to have a certain set of skills, transparency, always open, listening to what the needs of the people are, and responding to those needs in a sustainable way, as well as accessibility, being available to the community, and willing to get out into the community. But also, if someone doesn't see you out, they have your phone number. They can give you a call. They can say, "Here's what's going on. Here's what I think. Here's where some of the needs that are affecting me and my friends." And I think that in governance, that ought to be a high priority, and probably, if not the priority, of an elected official.
How do you go about fostering a good relationship with the other councilmen? Do you think that's important?
I think it's vitally important because you're a team, not any one individual. All I would have if in the aspect of being elected would be one vote. There's seven votes, and in order to move forward, I think of it this way, DV. I think of like a basketball team. I mean, there's all kinds of different teams. You got soccer teams, and you got football teams, and uh, baseball teams. But I think of governance as being more like a basketball game, where all the players they're always on the court, and they're having to go on the offense, and they're having to go on the defense. They've got to have the skill sets for being able to work as a team on either end of the court. And it's not like a baseball where, occasionally you get a batter that swings a bat, or you get some of the people that are in the defense field that are waiting for the ball to come to them. But in governance, it's more like the basketball analogy, and that's the way I see the team working together and helping one another understand the issues and what's going on, and how we can help best accomplish the goals that are part of the city.
Going into the issues, every year there is there is talk about taxes because the city is the second biggest part of your mortgage when you're paying taxes, and there's talk about how the taxes are affecting some people and they're having to move out of this great city that you're running for, and because they can no longer afford the property taxes. So every year when taxes come around, there's arguments for, against, and stuff like that. So how are you going to handle every year if you're elected? How will you handle taxes? What are your thoughts on overall on taxes?
Well, it's a multifaceted process, obviously, to understand what the needs are, providing for the amenities as well as the safety and security. I've never seen a pothole that was either a Democrat or a Republican that they needed to be fixed, or fast growth with providing for the infrastructure that's there. There are very facets of that, very aspects of building a budget and knowing what needs to be taken care of, as well as the budget planning process. What are the staff that as they look at the various different departments throughout and going through that budgeting process is multifaceted. But I would, in a general way, recognize that we are, as a fast growing community, we've seen appraisals dramatically increase, and even having a tax rate that might be at with present at 65 cents, recognizing that the taxes are going to go up if appraisals keep going up. And so we have to adjust and balance that constantly. And it's a continual, not just in the budget planning process once a year. I see it being almost on a monthly basis, if not every time a meeting takes place, looking at where's that balance, where's that we can provide money back into the pockets of the people, and the homeowners can afford to pay, the taxes that are there, without feeling like that it's growing too much and they have to move out of Midlothian for it. I've spent the last 7 years of my public service looking at alternative tax opportunities, industries that can come in that can help to lower the tax burden that goes to that homeowner, finding ways of developing and providing for one of the tenets of my campaign, putting money back in the pockets of the people so that they can afford to live here, while at the same time providing for the security and the livelihood and the well-being of the citizens to have a happy hometown living.
Every year you're going to have to deal with the budgets, and you were kind of touching on it. Every year you're going to have the budgets come in front of you. And if there's one thing that I've learned in 18 years of government, is government can always find a reason to spend. Now, I know that the city manager's fabulous and stuff, and they are good people and they do good work. But they that's what government does. So when you're dealing with a budget, how are you going to approach every budget if you're elected? As far as, are you going to be looking for cost savings? Are you going to be saying, hey, come back to me with a little more, or what's going to be your approach?
Well, I do agree with. I appreciate, by the way, what the council has even already done for the sake of the citizens last year, and already done for this year, is the homestead exemptions rising up. I appreciate the attention that's being given, even by the present council, to look at what alternatives can we have that will help with that homeowner. But and the taxes that are involved. I'm a homeowner here, and I have taxes, and my appraisals have gone up dramatically since I've lived here, and I'm the same way as any citizen. I don't want to have to be dealing with looking at that part of my checkbook whenever everything else I need to deal with needs to have attention with my checkbook. So certainly looking at the alternatives that would be there. I very much believe that it's something that's got to be scrutinized, looked at, and look for alternatives that could help provide for the services that are needed. Now, I will add that sometimes those decisions that are made with the maybe a need for a small segment rather than looking at what's going to be that's going to help the majority, the whole. And I think sometimes finding that balance is very, very difficult. Sometimes I've heard people say for years, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and you can get things done. Well, that can be true to a large degree, but sometimes it's from perspective of a government official. It's maybe there's a lot of folks that aren't known to that government official, like myself, that I need to be aware of and find out who they are so that they know somebody and not just a small group of people that can influence all of those kinds of decisions. Let me also say this about that, about the taxing. As a minister for the years that I've been in ministry, somebody asked me one time, said, how does a budget process work in ministry? Well, I learned a lot of things about that, and then getting into government work over the last 24 years, finding out that sometimes the same attitude is there. For example, one department may say, get close to the end of their budget year and say, well, there's still some money left. If we don't spend it, then we're going to lose it. Well, a lot of times we don't think like a businessman, saying, well, if it's not spent, it probably didn't need to be spent. There were other things that needed the monies, and always looking for how we can even have our departments and our staff, which I think we got a great staff in Midlothian, the ones that I'm aware of and that I know about, and I think we need to all be together, unified, and together working out how sometimes money doesn't need to be spent, it shouldn't be, and finding ways to utilize the resources for the things that are necessary and needed and helpful to the welfare of the community.
Construction projects. You have City Hall happening. You have the Midlothian PD office, the new one building. Those, I believe, are coming over budget. If I'm wrong on the City Hall, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure they're both coming in over budget. How do you deal with that as a city councilman? If you were elected, what are going to be some of your things about looking at, because we're going to have more building projects. There's several bonds that still need to be put out for a rec center and something else. So there's more building projects coming. What expertise do you bring to that? What would you like to see done with those projects?
Well, the expertise I bring to it is really, as I think of it, is twofold. One is 9 years, 3 terms on the school board. We would have bonds as the new schools and new properties would be needed, and the building processes. One of the problems that I saw on the school board for 9 years and recognized is that you put out a bond, you do the best estimates at the time that you put those bonds out in terms of this for the election. When the voters approve those bonds, now you have a mandate from the voters to take care and to go and build that school or build that building and do that construction. So you put the bond out, that adds to the tax burden. And once you do that, that might be a year or 2 years or even 3 years. And I think even with the city, I'm not sure, but I think that we might even have some that's from previous bonds that haven't been put out yet, that maybe the city leadership didn't see as the greatest need at the time. But what I saw was, by the time you do put the bond out, the construction costs, the materials costs, and everything else continues to rise when we're on a inflationary process like we've been in our area in the state of Texas and the United States, like we've been for the last few years. So Then you find out that, okay, our estimates were the best estimates we could put together to put out before the public to say we're going to build this construction. And then now all the materials have gone up. All the construction costs have gone up. All the transportation costs have gone up. Now you have a certain limited bond, and you have to make some hard choices and some hard decisions about what do we build? Do you want to cut corners? Certainly not. But at the same time, you're not wanting to put, marble inside a building. You shouldn't have had a bond to be elected to that anyway. But it is a real challenge with the 9 years of experience that I had on the school board. I can apply that to city council and looking at construction or what bonds are there and whatever we need to do, because I can tell you the materials are going to go up. Now, obviously if they do go back down, then it may be a timing issue more than it is the need of the moment issue. So
what are your thoughts on downtown and kind of the plan for that going forward?
Well, I do think that our old downtown, needs some attention. Obviously, I think it has the potential, and I've not been in some of the backroom meetings and discussions with some people. It's just been more of the over coffee kind of meetings or lunchtime meetings that of several of us that really weren't in a position to be the decision makers. We just had our own ideas. But I do see a city, and I think of the Midlothian growing as having a place where memories can be made, and the amenities and the opportunities for old downtown to be kind of a destination place for our community, for families to feel comfortable coming to downtown. I want to give a lot of attention to that, and get my mind wrapped around all of the various issues that are involved with that. Obviously, parking is a major issue for our downtown. I don't look at another city necessarily as saying, well, they did it the way that needs to be a blueprint for what we do. But I look at a multiple number of towns and cities that I have visited and that I've been a part of, and as a tourist or even as family members live there and go visit family. Places like Georgetown or Fredericksburg or Granbury or different cities around town, around the state, and even in other states that I look at it as kind of a bag. Take a lot of the different ideas that maybe a lot of them have done, put it in a bag, shake it up, and then see what would be best for the identity, the future, and the opportunity for the citizens to enjoy old downtown and Midlothian. It's going to take a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, and a lot of strategy to move that way. But I do agree that we need to do that. I don't want to see it deteriorate. I don't want to see, like some downtowns, you go to some cities and everything's falling apart. There's empty buildings and the businesses aren't thriving in a lot of those places. So I want to be involved in that.
Wayne Shuffield discusses growth.
And it's coming, and we all know that the incredible growth, we're at the cusp of what the future is going to be, because we need to manage it. We need to apply for the sustainability following our comprehensive plan. And one of the aspects that come along with growth are obviously the infrastructure. And a lot of times when growth starts happening quickly, we fall behind. And I've seen that happen in municipalities and in other places, that we get behind the eight ball pretty quickly if we don't keep up with the growth. I'd like to get to a point to where when we know about the growth that's coming, we have a comprehensive plan. We're talking to developers that are already generating ideas. And a lot of times they may already know some of their ideas 5, 6, 7 years in advance. Maybe we can try to figure out a way of getting ahead or getting caught up and not be behind all of that infrastructural development as we move into the growth potential and the possibilities that we have. And that goes back to strategic planning, all being together, doing this as a community and involved with conversations and discussions constantly, not only on a monthly or a quarterly basis, but almost on a daily basis, of saying, how can we manage the growth, build sustainability, and be ahead of the infrastructure? We also have different roads that are already built. We don't need to let that get behind us. We need to be constantly repairing and upgrading. And when we hear from communities, listening to our community, and then act and not sit back and and refuse to act. And I feel like that's what I want to be a part of trying to be a part of those kind of discussions and those kind of decision making to help our community continue to flourish.
Okay. So now this is the point where you talk to the people of Midlothian.
I want to just say in closing that I am Wayne Shuffield. I'm a candidate for place 6. I'm a candidate for place 6 of the city council because I care about my community. I recognize we are moving in a change period of time, and the expansion needs to be uh, strategically and rationally looked at with wisdom and decision making, and trying to unite the decision maker, the stakeholders in that decision making process, rather than just a handful of a few, while we're trying to help and while we want to help build for what I believe is not only been a good legacy, but also a bright future in caring about all the citizens and the community of Midlothian, who we are and what our identity is, and understanding where we need to go together for the identity that we all want and that we will cherish and build the great community and municipality and city that is going to come, but not looking back and saying, man, I wish we'd have done something different 10 years ago, whenever we can make those decisions today.